East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. And joining me today as my co-host is the Patriot from the battle-born state, the Silver State of Nevada. Hopefully very soon, the Republican nominee for the U.S. Senate seat in Nevada, and that is my very good friend, Sharon Angle. Sharon, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's always my honor and pleasure to be on with you on these terrific Tuesdays. We seem to just get better and better guests every time we're together, and I'm really looking forward to today's show as well.
Okay. So, Sharon, how are things going out there in Nevada?
Well, they're going. We're mixing it up. It's always interesting toward the end. We have 6 weeks left until the election on June 14th. Early voting starts May 28th. So we're really looking at about 2 weeks before people get involved. It takes a while before the election. People are really busy with their lives, but about 2 weeks before voting starts, we find that voters begin to get engaged. They're starting to look at the candidates. They're starting to examine the mail that they've gotten in their mailbox and all of the emails that they've received. They're looking for that right candidate, exploring their websites. And so we've got about 2 weeks before that process begins, and then we expect to see a pretty competitive race, and we've watched that play out in the presidentials as we come upon each one of these new primaries, our caucuses. We see them engage that state about 2 weeks in advance of the voting, and they really mix it up, don't they, Rick?
Indeed they do. And I always like to ask you this question as you're traveling around Nevada. What are people talking about? What are people asking you? What's important to them?
It's the same things as it is all over the United States, Rick. It's the things that we discuss every week, every day on Conservative Commandos Radio. We discuss government overreach. People are so tired of the EPA and the Wilderness and the Endangered Species Act. Those things that government has regulated and regulated and regulated until we as private citizens can hardly breathe. They're sick and tired of being told what health care they can buy and then finding out that after they've been told they can buy it, it's unaffordable. And they are forced to be uninsured once more. They're sick and tired of not having a job because the folks that have been providing jobs all along are now seeing the handwriting on the wall that they can't afford to have full-time employees because of the cost of this health insurance mandate of Obamacare. And so now they are pushed into part-time jobs or out of the job market completely. So everything that we talk about on Conservative Commando's radio show is happening right here in Nevada. And when I travel the state, that's what we talk about, Rick.
Well, when you talk about government overreach, when you talk about people being pushed into part-time jobs, in Jersey City, New Jersey, which is about 100 miles from here, that you talk about government overreach, the city politicians have passed an ordinance that for certain sized businesses, they must employ their people a minimum of 30 hours a week.
Well, do you see, they create a problem, and rather than repeal a bad law, they decide to make another law to fix the problem, which just creates another problem. And that is why we need people to go to Washington, D.C., to go to the state legislatures, to go to county commissions and school boards, and begin to repeal bad law, because bad law breeds bad law.
Indeed it does. Indeed it does. So when you're talking to the voters out there in Nevada, their anger, is it towards any politician or anyone who's on the inside right now?
Well, it's generically directed, I think, to anyone that's on the inside. If you're holding office now, beware, because they feel like in 2012, in 2010, in 2014, they mandated that those they elected go and make changes and keep their political promises. And what sadly happened is most have not only failed to keep their promises, but in most cases they lied to win. They won, and now they're lying again. And that is so angering. People hate to be lied to, Rick, and they feel like it's, get the bums out. And so I think the anger is related to those that are in office right now, and it's also related to those that have just perpetuated the problems and have lied to them and not kept their promises.
All right, what else is on your radar screen today?
Well, when you're running a race, it's hard to have anything else on your radar but that race.
Right.
And yet, I think that we have to look at what's going on nationally. Today's the primary in Indiana, and we've seen all stops out, all systems go for the two candidates that are really in the runoffs. And one candidate is getting so close that there may not be a runoff after tonight.
Yeah, it's looking rather good for Donald Trump, rather not so good for Ted Cruz.
And not at all good for John Kasich, who is still in the race. I think perhaps just hoping for a miracle here. I don't know why he stays in the race, but he is there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Sharon, let's take our first break, get that out of the way, and then on the other side we can come back and talk about our guest. But you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network here at WNJC 1360 and around the world on the internet. Don't go away. Sharon and I will be right back.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commando Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know? Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or log on on your computer at 9 a.m. Log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net, or at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com, or you could hear our show and all the shows that are associated with Conservative Commandos Radio Network from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. You don't need an app. You don't need to download anything. You just need that number, 832-999-1199. Sharon, let's talk about today's guest.
Surely. Well, at 3:35, our guest, Guy Short, who is a Colorado political activist and a 2016 national delegate pledged to Ted Cruz. He is a 6-time locally elected national delegate from Colorado. He has volunteered, consulted, and professionally helped numerous state and federal candidates win office. And he's written an article, Trump's Cynical Assault on Colorado National Delegates. So he's going to talk to us about what happened in Colorado, Rick, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what his take is on what's going on in Indiana and what's going to go on for the rest of this campaign until we get to the convention this summer. Our 405 guest is Randy Barnett, and Randy teaches constitutional law at Georgetown Law, where he directs the Georgetown Center for Constitution and is the author of the recently published Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Liberty and Sovereignty of We the People. And he's written an article, Why Indiana Matters. So we're all about this with our first two guests. If Trump wins, he says, if Trump runs away with the state's primary, bid adieu to the Supreme Court that enforces limited power and the limits on its power. So it'll be interesting to hear what Randy Barnett has to say about the Supreme Court, why Donald Trump is a problem for our Supreme Court.
All right, and at 4:35, our friend Fred Lucas from The Blaze is going to be joining us. Fred is the White House correspondent for The Blaze. He's also the unofficial White House correspondent for the Conservative Commandos radio show. Fred is the author of The Right Frequency, the story of how the talk show giants shook up the political and entertainment media. And Fred has got a new book out. He's going to join us to talk about it. And it's the title of that book is Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and Electoral Chaos of Disputed Presidential Elections. So maybe this isn't the only political season campaign that has had cantankerous goings-on. So that'll be Fred Lucas.
You're right about cantankerous goings-on. I think the history shows that there have been other such elections, but generally speaking, we've been able to get beyond that. I believe that in 1976, when Gerald Ford got the nomination over Ronald Reagan, even though he had the popular vote, Ronald Reagan took a very statesman-like attitude toward the whole thing and became very supportive of Gerald Ford, even though Gerald Ford did not survive but one term. Ronald Reagan was ready to unite the party, heal the wounds, and go forward, and in 1980 became one of our best presidents. So I think that there's a lesson in that. I know that we've heard Donald Trump and Ted Cruz in January say to one another, if you win, I will select you as my running mate. They both said it, and they said it to one another on a debate. Well, it's not a bad idea, Rick. It's not a bad idea to have that kind of a ticket, a Trump Cruz or Cruz Trump ticket, because it would unite the party, heal the wounds that all of this fiery rhetoric has caused in the last couple of months. Plus, it would bring the strengths of both candidates, the social conservatism and political experience of Ted Cruz, and the fiscal conservatism and the business acumen of Donald Trump. So we could have the best against Hillary Clinton if we could just unite the party.
I agree with you on that, Sharon. But as with the hostilities that have gone back and forth between the two campaigns, Donald Trump with his mantra, lying Ted Cruz, and the latest is Trump come out and said that Cruz's father helped and was associated with Lee Harvey Oswald. So after those things like that, how can you then turn around and say, oh, this man is suited to be my vice presidential candidate? How do you then sell it to the American people that Ted Cruz is not a liar and that Ted Cruz's father was not part of the Kennedy assassination?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult, but you know, politics is a odd animal, Rick. We've watched.
Well, it's an odd animal, but if in fact Donald Trump selects, and by the way, I'm a Ted Cruz supporter. I think that anyone other than Ted Cruz as the president of the United States in 2016 is going to be a disaster for our country. But when you got Donald Trump just using this campaign to whip Cruz any way you can, how do you then turn it around? I mean, does that not then send a message to the Trump supporters that Trump is nothing but a phony? And what he was said during the campaign was nothing but phony, nothing but lies and distortions himself? And then doesn't the other side use these lies and distortions to whip them come November?
You would think that would be the case, wouldn't you, Rick? I don't know, but I've watched this for years and years. We watch them turn it around, don't they? I mean, it's an amazing thing, and it seems like we the people forget. I don't know if it's possible this time that we the people will forget all of this harsh rhetoric and begin to bury the hatchet and not in one another's back this time. I don't know how this will all work out, but I know that if they can work it out, it's for the best for America and for we the people going forward. If they can somehow get to a place where they can reconcile this.
Well, that'll be a magic trick that I would like to see.
I know you and a lot of other people, I think, Rick, because
that's a magic trick I want to see.
Well, you know, it always is so disappointing when Republicans fight harder against one another than they do against the Democrats.
Just unbelievable. Hey, Sharon, let's take our break. And you are listening to Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. Today's show is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Don't go away. On the other side, we'll be speaking with Guy Short, a Colorado political activist. Be right back.
You've heard Paul Delps playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972. 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and Sharon Angle. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., you can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., log on to roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. And Rick, we have our first guest ready, and it's my honor to introduce Guy Short, who is a Colorado political activist and 2016 national delegate pledged to Ted Cruz. He is a 6-time locally elected national delegate from Colorado, and he has volunteered, consulted, and professionally helped numerous local, state, and federal candidates win office. Guy, welcome to Conservative Commando's radio show.
Hi, Sharon. Hi, Rick. Good to be with you.
Well, it's our honor to have you here and to be talking about this on the day of an election. You wrote Trump's cynical assault on Colorado national delegates. For a candidate posing as a strong leader, Donald Trump sure whines a lot. Talk to us a little bit about what happened in Colorado, because I think there were some surprises there, not only nationally, but for the delegates themselves.
Sure, and he sure does whine a lot, and certainly he whines a lot about Colorado. Colorado, we had an election, a caucus very similar to what they do in Iowa and other states that hold caucuses on March 1st. We met in schools and churches and homes across the state. Every Republican in the entire state was welcome to show up at the Republican caucuses. The Democrats did the same thing. They had their caucuses on the same day, and Democrats showed up to homes and schools and churches on their side as well. In our caucus, my individual caucus, there was about 9 of us that showed up. We held a vote. I know you hear a lot about the close voterless caucus in Colorado. We held a vote. I think in my caucus, Ted Cruz won with 4 votes out of the 9. I think Ben Carson got 3. Marco Rubio picked up a couple. Donald Trump got 1. There was one Donald Trump supporter in my caucus, and we also voted to send delegates to further conventions, whether they were county conventions or district assemblies. Went on to those assemblies and voted again to send further delegates onto the state convention and delegates onto the congressional convention, and that's where we elected national delegates. This is the same process that we have used in Colorado, I believe, since the 1900s, early 1900s. We have used this same exact process, so it wasn't a secret to anybody, and some campaigns organized, some didn't. Some campaigns showed up, some didn't. Some candidates showed up, and some didn't. Ultimately, Ted Cruz did very well. He had by far the most support. In my caucus, he won my caucus. He won my county, which is the most Republican county in the state. And then he went on to be very successful at congressional district assemblies and the state assembly, electing delegates to the national convention. As most people probably know, Ted Cruz showed up to our convention, gave a great speech, rallied the support, and got the votes. Donald Trump didn't show up. Rallied nobody. In fact, he didn't organize the state early on, and was really just nowhere to be found. And when you don't show up, it makes it a lot more difficult to win. And he didn't win. And as you started off the program, now he's whining about it.
And now he's whining about it. And the whine is that he's serving. The wine that he's serving is that they're rigged, they're crooked, that the party bosses. What about that? I mean, you've just explained to us a system that doesn't sound like it could be rigged or that there's any party bosses in charge here.
Well, so about 65 to 75,000 people showed up. We don't have 65,000 to 75,000 party bosses in Colorado. These are average folks. For example, my son, who just turned 18, his first chance to show up at a caucus and participate, he showed up. By no means is my son a party boss. So these are average, hard-working, everyday moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas. In my son's case, high school students that showed up. Had nothing to do with the party bosses. Again, this is a system that's been in place since the early 1900s. And you know, when I was a delegate, a national delegate to my first convention when I was 27 years old. That was in 1996. Bob Dole was our nominee. I opposed Bob Dole every step of the way. I was unsuccessful in opposing him. But I figured the process out. When I was 27 years old, I got on the phone. I called the delegates. I made my pitch. I told them why I wanted to be a national delegate, why I thought it was, you know, in their best interest to elect me to represent them at the national convention. Some folks supported me, some didn't. But I walked through that process when I was a 27-year-old. If I can understand the process at that young age, And my son, who's 18, if he can understand the process now as an 18-year-old, you would think that Donald Trump, the art of the deal, this is the biggest deal maker, right, that's ever been, and he sold more books than anybody, and yada, yada, yada. You would think that Donald Trump would be able to figure this process out. But I got to tell you, Sharon and Rick, I don't think it's so much that he couldn't figure the process out. I think it was more so that he simply just didn't have the support, and rather come here and be embarrassed, he chose not to show up and then whine about it at a later date.
Well, it's interesting to me that you mention your son, because we've been told that these young people are all going for Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump, and yet your son seems to be, is he an anomaly, or is he a representative of a silent?
If I could jump in here, it probably has a lot to do with good parenting.
I appreciate that, Rick. Thank you for saying that rather than me. But my son certainly is. He's certainly involved, and he gets it, from his parents, and that's certainly true. I watched a little bit of cable news today, and saw Donald Trump talking about how he was going to get the Bernie Sanders supporters, and how the young people are going to support him. I haven't seen one poll, and I've looked at poll after poll after poll, and I haven't seen one poll where it shows young people going for Donald Trump. I mean, when you're a presidential candidate, when you have won plenty of primaries, you're certainly the presumptive leader of our party right now. And when you go out and mock the disabled, when you disrespect women, when you cozy up to convicted rapists like Mike Tyson, when you fail to distance yourself from folks like the KKK, when you disrespect veterans and POWs, that's not anything that endears young people to you. Donald Trump, it's a talking point for him. Everybody loves him, so he says. But I think the polls definitely show something different, and even the votes. Look, Donald Trump has lost a majority of the Republicans, and Republicans are just one subsect of the entire country. He can't win a majority of Republicans. He's certainly not going to win a majority of the American people and become our next president. Which is why I'm fighting so hard to defeat him, and if we can't defeat him in Indiana, we'll defeat him at the national convention.
Well, and I think you make some good points, and we've got to go to a break right now, but I was wondering if you could stay through the break with us.
Sure, absolutely.
That's great, because we want to come back after this break and talk to our guest, Guy Short, from Colorado, about the rules when he goes to convention, because he's going to be on that rules committee, and we want to know, is that rigged, or how will that rules committee decide, and is there still a chance for Ted Cruz? We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet, with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .com. Rick Trader and Sharon Angle will be right back after this break with our guest, Guy Short.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're We're David and Patty Berrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcasts or podcasts, as some people call them, please check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or mornings at 9 a.m. log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, at 1 p.m. roarradio.net, or at 9 p.m. log on to highplainsdailynews.com, or you can hear our show from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Guy Short. He's a Cruz National delegate from Colorado and the only one in Colorado on the Convention Rules Committee. And that's very important. Guy, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely, and just to be clear, there's each state elects a male and a female to the Rules Committee. So I'm the only male on the Rules Committee. However, I do have a colleague, Kendall Unruh, who is the female who was elected to the Rules Committee. So the two of us will be serving on the Rules Committee together. All
right. Well, I'll blame that Joshua and give me that wrong piece of information. The rules, the Colorado rules. Let's talk about them for a minute. The rules for the caucuses, the primary, and whatever. These rules were set in 1912, from what I understand. However, Guy, your article is Trump's cynical assault on Colorado's national delegates. I think Donald Trump was very clever in turning the rules around to attack Cruz, to bring people on his side. Sharon and I have talked about this, Guy, that this is an election period when the voter is against anyone who's on the inside. And so I think it was very clever of Trump to attack the rules to put himself in a good position.
Rick, I don't disagree with you. I mean, we could use the word clever, we could use the word cunning, we could use the word dishonest. There's probably a lot of adjectives to describe how he was able to turn a loss into a media narrative that was favorable to himself. So I don't know that I necessarily disagree with you. it doesn't address the fact that he's wrong, and it doesn't address the fact that he continues to misrepresent what happened in Colorado, and his team continues to lie about it.
Right.
However, in the end, Donald Trump has been successful in doing that with not only the rules, but with issue after issue after issue. Been successful, and the national media has been a partner in that with him. And going back to just this specific area that we're addressing in terms of the rules in Colorado, and Colorado's not the only state that he's attacked. It's virtually every state he loses in. He's been very successful at putting forth this narrative with the help of the national media that somehow that he's an outsider and he's been treated poorly. And you know it's interesting. You can look at a couple other states. For example, Donald Trump got about just over 30% of the vote in South Carolina. He won South Carolina, got about just over 30% of the vote, but he got 100% of the delegates. Now that's a rigged system, but it's a rigged system in favor of Donald Trump.
In that case, it doesn't count. In that case, the rules are right, according to Trump.
When he won the state of New York, he got less votes than did Ted Cruz when Ted Cruz won the state of Wisconsin. He got almost twice the amount of delegates. Now, that's a rigged system, but it's rigged in favor of Donald Trump. But the national media narrative hasn't put forth that, have they?
No, they haven't.
Continue to push the Donald Trump narrative of, hey, when I don't show up and I lose something, it's somebody else's fault.
I've been supporting Ted Cruz since the primary season began and we saw who the 17 candidates were. But I think that the fault of the Cruz campaign during this election is they fell into Trump's trap. Instead of talking about America, they're talking about each other too much. And it's pretty tough not to defend yourself when somebody comes out. And by the way, did you hear the latest, Guy? The latest is Donald Trump came out today and said that Ted Cruz's father was associated with Lee Harvey Oswald. So it's pretty hard to talk about the issues that are facing America when somebody is attacking your father. But I think this is where Ted Cruz has lost it. In falling into the Donald Trump trap, talking and defending himself against these attacks, rather than going to the people and say, look, I'm ignoring this because what is important to America, not to Ted Cruz and to Donald Trump, but what is important for America. Do you agree with that?
I don't. I don't agree that when you say that this is where, quotes, Ted Cruz has lost it. Look, every campaign, and I know, Sharon's run campaigns in the past. Every campaign, when you look back on it, you look back and say, hey, I wish I'd have done this different or that different. But I think it's fair to say that this is probably the most unusual campaign season ever. And so I think we need to take that into account. And I think the second thing we really need to take into account is the national media's fawning and I can't think of the proper adjective to describe how they have created this candidate in Donald Trump, and so I think whether it's Ted Cruz or other candidates, they found it difficult to talk about America and how we solve the problems in America and how we get ourselves out of the past 8 years, when the only thing the national media narrative wants to talk about is Donald Trump and the latest idiotic thing he said. Point out the latest thing just this morning is about some fantasy about Lee Harvey Oswald and Ted Cruz's father.
In your article, and I'm quoting you in your article, and I guess you're quoting Trump here, and it says, quote, how is it possible that the people of the great state of Colorado never got to vote in the Republican primary? Well, how is it possible? Because I believe it's possible because, as we've been talking about, Trump does not know the rules of primaries. Part of that reason is Donald Trump has never voted in a Republican primary. I wanted to get you to comment on that.
Sure. Well, it wouldn't be interesting if, in order to place your name in nomination at the Republican National Convention, you had to vote in 3 of the last 4 primaries. Where would that leave Donald Trump?
It'd leave him out.
Yeah, Donald Trump doesn't even he doesn't get the process. He doesn't understand the process, and he points out a primary. Well, primaries in Colorado, we've had them in the past, but the state legislature did away with primaries. And the state legislature looked at passing a primary.
And by the way, that happened in 1912, correct?
No, we've had primaries since then. We've had primaries and caucuses, and we've had a process. The delegate selection process has been...
Well, what I'm getting at, it didn't happen just to hurt Donald Trump.
Oh, no. In fact, one of the reasons that Republicans opposed the primary just this last time had nothing to do with Donald Trump, but was that they were opposed to it because of Jeb Bush. And I wasn't involved in that process.
Hey, Guy, we only have 2 minutes left, and I know this is something that Sharon wanted to touch on, but could you talk about the rules at the convention? What rules are you going to have to follow at the convention, and could you do that in 2 minutes, please?
I can do it in less than 2 minutes. Look, the rules at the convention have not been set yet. There'll be 118 delegates on the Rules Committee. I will be one of them. My colleague from Colorado will be another. There's only been about 22, 24 of those delegates selected so far. So we don't know what the makeup of that committee is going to look like. They will continue to be selected between now and the convention. Eventually we'll get to 118, which is 2 per state, male and a female, as well as the territories. But we don't know. We will inherit from the RNC Standing Committee on Rules. They will give us the temporary rules. And then it is our job to accept them, reject them, amend them. We can do whatever we want. As a body of 118 members, we will take what we come up with, pass that on to the floor, and all of the delegates will either have to approve or disapprove of those rules. If they disapprove of them, then we'll go back to the Rules Committee to rewrite other rules. I think there's going to be a lot of debate in that committee. It's most likely be quite a contentious committee. There are already proposals out there to unbind all of the delegates by a gentleman up in North Dakota named Curly Hoagland. So there'll be those types of amendments. I've heard others that are interested in proposing conscience clauses where involuntarily bound delegates would not be forced to vote against their conscience. We're going to debate all of those proposals, and I'm sure many, many more, and come up with a package, and we'll see if we can get that package approved on the floor. But I don't think anybody today knows what that rules package is going to look like in 3 months.
Guy Short, we want to thank you so much for joining us here on Conservative Commando's radio show. Do you have a website or anything, Guy? Or how do people keep track of what you write?
We'll get it out there, and I'll make sure I get it to you, and you can get it out there as well.
All right, Guy Short, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck. Have fun in Cleveland.
All right.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, our flagship station, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. You don't go away. On the other side, we're going to be talking about why Indiana matters. Be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
You've heard Paul Delps playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20-plus years of experience to work for you as as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product in the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired as I am about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, the drink
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Rick Trader and yours truly, Sharon Angle. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. Mornings at 9 a.m., you can log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net. And at 9 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And Rick, our guest is with us right now, and it's my honor to introduce Randy Barnett, who teaches constitutional law at Georgetown Law, where he directs the Georgetown Center for Constitution and is the author of a recently published Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Liberty and Sovereignty of We the People. Randy, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Well, great. Thanks for having me, Sharon.
It's always our pleasure and honor to have you on, Randy. Just so grateful you're here to talk to us about something that really has perked my interest. In fact, it says, Why Indiana Matters. And your first line is, if Trump runs away with the state's primary, bid adieu to the Supreme Court that enforces limits on power. What do you mean by that, Randy?
Well, Indiana matters for two different reasons. One, because we have a Republican Constitution in which we don't just have a Democratic election on a day and a majority gets their way. You have to jump through the hoops of 50 state governments. And as a result of what decisions of citizens of Pennsylvania have made in the past, now Indiana gets a voice. And if Indiana's depending on what Indiana does, it'll go on to other states like Nebraska and California. So that's part of our Republican system. And the reason why I said it makes a difference is that with Antonin Scalia gone, we actually need a president who will appoint judges who understand our Republican Constitution, including the limits on government power. And that's what the people of Indiana are going to have to decide on today.
And you don't think that Trump understands that we're not a democracy, that we are a republic?
I honestly don't, just based on what he said about the Constitution in the past and about the limits on power and the fact that, for example, he wants to override freedom of speech of people who criticize him. He's said that on a number of occasions to specific people. His instincts are quite authoritarian and show no understanding or even recognition that we have a Constitution that's supposed to limit federal power and separate powers. He also is very big on executive orders, like President Obama is. He's kind of the flip side of Obama, only for different issues than Obama's for, but otherwise the same sort of style.
And since you are a law professor, I'm assuming there at Georgetown, I want you to go in and just explain to our audience what's the difference between a republic and a democracy and why we are not a democracy.
Right. I mean, frankly, I've heard this all my life. We're a republic, not a democracy. And then I found that I didn't have a really clear idea what the difference was. And if you look it up in the dictionary, Sharon, you'll see it says a republic. It defines republic as a representative democracy. So based on that definition, there isn't much difference. But it turns out, if you go back and look at the Declaration of Independence, it turns out there's a big difference. A democracy is a view of we the people as a group. It views we the people as a group, and we the people are supposed to rule. So you need a democratic constitution so that the will of we the people can be represented in government, and government will rule in the name of the people. And that means the majority will rule, because that's the only way you get the will of the people is through a alleged majority. A Republican Constitution looks at we the people as individuals, each of whom have the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then the next sentence of the Declaration says, it is to secure these rights that governments are instituted among men. In other words, under a Republican Constitution, first come rights, and then comes government, and then you need a constitution, a Republican Constitution, to provide limits on the government because the governments are not our voice, they're not our will, they are our servants. And we need a law that governs those who govern us. They're not us, but we need a law that governs those who govern us, and that's what the Constitution is for, to limit the power of government. So under that reading, you need judges who are prepared to uphold our Republican Constitution, and Republican presidents have not been all that great at selecting them.
And I think that your explanation is really helpful to us, Randy, because so many people say, well, we live in a democracy, it's the majority rule. But that's not the case. In fact, a republic actually protects the minority, doesn't it?
That's right. The founders lived under democratic majority governments in their states, and they found that those governments were abusing the rights of the minority, and they were erecting trade barriers to help favored businessmen, etc. And so they instituted a new form of government to solve the problem that they hadn't really realized was going to happen. Under Republican theory, up until the time of our Constitution, it was thought that if you put the power in the hands of the majority, of the so-called of the people, then the people would not violate their own rights. But it turns out the people did violate their own rights, because the majority violated the rights of the minority. And the other thing that happens in a democracy is that when people get fed up with how poorly a democracy actually operates with majoritarian rule, eventually they look for a strong man or a demagogue. Notice the similarity of the term demagogue to democracy. They look for a demagogue who's going to save them from the follies and turbulence that are caused by democracy itself. And you can understand the impulse, but it's a dangerous thing.
It surely is. And I really do appreciate the history lesson and also just the lesson on the difference, because I think it's so important that people understand why their vote counts at the local level. That's really their only voice, isn't it, Randy?
Well, what's happened, Sharon, as I talk about in my book, there's a whole chapter about the rise of progressivism and the decline of the Republican Constitution. The progressives wanted to move all the social and political and economic issues up to the national level so they could impose their will on the country as a whole, rather than leave the most important issues to the states, where we could have 50 states with 50 solutions and packages of social and economic policies, and people could gravitate to the states that they're most comfortable with. But because if you push everything up to the national level, and if you don't win at the national level, it means you have to live under the regime of your opponents, then everybody fights so hard at the national level, they use all the checks and balances that exist there to grind things to a halt. And once again, people want a strong man to come in and burn the system down, like a Bernie Sanders on the left or a Donald Trump on the right.
This sounds like a must-read for our listeners. I want you to give a plug for your book, and just, you've kind of gone into what you cover, but give us that book and also where we can get it.
Absolutely. It's called Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Liberty and Sovereignty of We the People. And the best place to get it, I think, is Amazon, since it's cheapest there. It's $18.10 in hard copy, $13 in Kindle, and there's also an audio version available. And I'll tell you, I've spent my whole career trying to write a book that my wife would read and enjoy, and this is the first time I've written a book that she's read from cover to cover. She really liked it, and she told me 2 days later, the stories in your book really, really stay with you. It's disturbing, like watching a movie. Because the book is told in a series of individual stories to illustrate the overall story of how we got a Republican Constitution and how we've kind of lost it.
Well, as I said, I think it's a must-read. Tell us the title again and where we can get it.
Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Sovereignty of the People. Look my name up, Randy Barnett. And Amazon.com is the best place to get it for $18.10 in hardcover.
Now, you say in your article only one of the two top remaining Republican candidates loves and understands the limits on government power imposed by a Republican Constitution. I'm going to let you name him and tell us why, and talk about the person that he's named to be his running mate.
Well, it's Ted Cruz. I have to tell the readers, your listeners, I was working for Senator Paul until he was eliminated from the race. But Ted was one of my top choices going into this. I know him. I've seen him argue in the Supreme Court. He's somebody who's memorized the Constitution from his earliest ages, and if you ask him almost any question, for example, about the social issues, he'll tell you It's federalism that's supposed to solve those problems, that you handle these at the state level. And his running mate, Carly Fiorina, I've spoken to her during this campaign. I've talked to her about our Republican Constitution. She's extremely enthusiastic about it. She's talked about it on the stump, and her father was a conservative federal judge years ago, so she actually comes from a legal background, although she herself is a business woman. And both of these people love our Constitution. They know about the Constitution. They're prepared to talk about our Constitution. And frankly, even among Republican candidates, that's a big rarity. You know that. You know, even among good Republican candidates, this is a rarity to have two people who understand who know and care so much about the Constitution as these two people do.
We need to go to a quick break. Can you stay with us through the break, Randy?
Sure.
Thank you so much. We're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, and AM FM 24/7, Aller.com. We'll be right back after this short message with Rick Trader, yours truly, Sharon Angle, and our guest, Randy Burnett.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. And our guest this segment is Randy Barnett, who teaches constitutional law at Georgetown Law, and he directs the Georgetown Center for the Constitution, and he is the author of the recently published book, Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Liberty and Sovereignty of We the People. Randy, thanks for holding through that break. We appreciate your time. I know I only have a few more minutes. You have to go very shortly, but with 8 years, after 8 years of Barack Obama, do you see Donald Trump as a demagogue?
Yes. It's understandable that one would be attracted to a strong leader after Republicans that are currently elected seem to have failed to slow the Democratic president down the way their voters wanted them to. So I can understand the impulse for wanting that. But we really ought to be trying to restore our constitutional system that's been distorted from before Barack Obama was president, even under Bush and before. And we should be doing that rather than trying to use all the abusive powers that the presidents have been using in order to get your way for a change.
Well, demagogues, I think, are very attractive to people who feel like Barack Obama has abused the Constitution, and now we need somebody to bring the country back to it. But with a demagogue, it's taking the country past that point to the point of, well, we're getting what we just got rid of.
Right. Well, look, there's a lot of different people who support Trump for different reasons, and it's really wrong to generalize completely about them. But I
understand.
I see who many of the supporters of Donald Trump are and who he's bringing out. And those people don't care at all about the Constitution. They care about getting their way, getting their policies implemented however they get implemented. And those, I believe, who do care about the Constitution are really, they have been looking in other directions. And frankly, even in the Republican Party, those who care about the Constitution are a minority. You know that.
Right.
That's the reason why Republican presidents and Republican appointed...
That's why we're in this mess.
Have disappointed us in the past.
Right. Randy, in your article, you write, with the death of Justice Antonin Scalia and likely retirement of more justices over the next 4 years, the future of our Republican Constitution now hangs in the balance. And with that, let's talk about that. Let's talk about possible future people on the Supreme Court. Hey, if Hillary Clinton's elected, one speculation is Barack Obama. What would you take of a Barack Obama on the Supreme Court?
Well, one of the things that I've learned in my experience is that no matter how smart and reasonable a person appointed by a Democratic president seems to be, they end up voting pretty much the same way, no matter how moderate or how radical they are. And that's because, if you get back to my book for a minute, those people all accept the basic constitutional premise of the Democratic Constitution. And so they're quite consistent. And it doesn't matter what their style or background is. They're voting pretty much the same way. The problem is on the Republican side, some Republicans understand the limited nature of a Republican Constitution, but other Republicans have bought into their version of the Democratic Constitution as well. And that's why Republican-appointed justices perform erratically and inconsistently, depending on whether they want to hold the Congress and the government to its powers or whether they want to defer to the will of the majority how the Democratic Constitution is thought of.
Randy Barnett, I promised I'd get you off by 4:25. One more time, tell the people where they can get your book.
Thanks. I actually have drum lessons now, so I got to get into my drum lessons and get my weekly instruction. And the name of my book is Our Republican Constitution, Securing the Liberty and Sovereignty of We the People. It's available most easily on Amazon.com for $18.10 in hardback, $13 for Kindle, and there's an audio version available as well for people who want to listen to it in their cars.
Randy, one more quick question I got to ask. When you're taking your drum lessons tonight, who is on the top of that drum you're beating on? Bet no one ever asked you that question in an interview, did they?
No, you just inspired me. I'm going to go in and kick some butt on those drums right now.
And who's on that drum top that you're going to kick the butt of?
I think that's going to go nameless.
All right. Randy Barnett, thank you so much for joining us on Conservative Commandos. Appreciate your time.
It was my pleasure, Rick. Thank you.
Take care. God bless.
Bye-bye.
Well, Sharon, Randy's right. So much is hanging in the balance, and we've been talking about this for months here on the Conservative Commandos, how important this election is, especially when it comes to the Supreme Court. A couple of other names I wanted to get into with Randy. We didn't have time, but think of, okay, Donald Trump getting elected. Now let's look at the cast of characters who's in the Trump camp. One of them being that Chris Christie from New Jersey, who I believe went into the Trump camp because he was promised something like, oh, maybe Attorney General or maybe even Supreme Court.
It's so hard to imagine what kind of deals the deal maker has made, really, isn't it, Rick? I don't know if there have been promises made or not, but, you know, he does say he practices the art of the deal, and it makes one wonder what we're going to find really happened with all of these folks that have endorsed him. But for that matter, I guess that's always what happens when you have any kind of candidate for president. There's a lot of deals that are made, and we'll never know what all the deals were before, you know, when we get to the outcome, we just won't know what all those deals were.
Yeah. I guess deal making is part of politics. It'll always be part of politics, and we can get into that with Fred Lucas. Fred Lucas is going to be our guest in the next half hour, and Fred has written a new book, Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and Electoral Chaos of Disputed Presidential Elections. That'll be fun to get into with Fred Lucas.
So now you can ask Fred Lucas what he thinks the deals were that the deal maker made.
Yeah, you know, just on the way to the studio, obviously I had the radio tuned to the Conservative Commandos radio network. Doug and Blaine of Doug and Blaine Explain the Game, the show preceding us here on Tuesdays, they were talking about the deals, the art of the deal. And one of them said, Donald Trump will do anything. He'll make any deal to win. In a way, that's kind of sad.
Well, in a way, but in a way, it speaks to his toughness, and I know that's what's attracting people all over the U.S. to his campaign. So, you know, I'm listening to it from both sides.
But Sharon, but what you hear is people are sick of the deals. This is what you hear. We're sick of the deal makers. We're sick of the insiders in Washington. So who do they want to elect? One of the biggest deal makers of all time. And by the way, this guy's made good and bad deals. Not all of his deals have been good. Hey, Sharon, with that, we will go to a break. Okay? Unless you wanted to say something.
No, you caught me and I'm good.
Okay. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, right here at WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. Look for us on Facebook. Join our group, Conservative Commandos Radio Show, on Facebook. Don't go away. We're coming back with Fred Lucas.
You've heard Paul Delps playing the music on the Your Music Matters morning show. He is also an experienced mortgage loan officer working for U.S. Mortgage Corporation and assists homeowners navigate the reverse mortgage process. If you are finding yourself asking questions whether or not you set aside enough for retirement, Paul can sit down with you, your family, and your financial advisor and discuss how a reverse mortgage may be a valuable resource for your retirement plan. You will be responsible for paying your taxes and insurance, and the reverse mortgage can help with this and other expenses, such as home health care or other untimely bills. Put Paul's 20 plus years of experience to work for you, as choosing the right option for your situation can be critical. Call Paul at U.S. Mortgage Corporation at 877-213-9977. That's 877-213-9977. Or go to seniormatters.info for more information. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is a licensed mortgage banker in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, and an equal housing lender. NMLS number 3901. U.S. Mortgage Corporation is located at 201 Old Country Road, Suite 140, Melville, New York, 11747. This advertisement applies to first lien mortgages. Paul E. Dilks, NMLS is 485904.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage, because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
You know?
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of our shows, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. Or you could listen to our show and all the shows that are associated with Conservative Commandos any time of the day from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is Fred Lucas. Fred is the White House correspondent for theblaze.com, and he is also the official, unofficial White House correspondent for the Conservative Commandos radio show. Before joining The Blaze, Fred worked for CNSnews.com. Fred also is the author of The Right Frequency, the story of the talk giants who shook up the political and entertainment establishment. And his newest book is Tainted by Suspicion. I love that title. Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and Electoral Chaos of Disputed Presidential Elections. Fred Lucas, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show, and congratulations on the new book, Fred.
Oh, thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me on.
Well, always enjoy having you on. May 3rd, the book is out in ebooks as of today.
Right. Today we had early release for ebook, and it's also going to be in bookstores soon.
All right, so congratulations on that. As I was saying, Fred, I love the title, Tainted by Suspicion. And in your book, could you tell us a little bit about your book? I haven't seen it yet, obviously, because it's just coming out today. But what is it? A compilation of stories about past elections?
Yeah. It's primarily the 1800 election, 1824, 1876, and 2000. 2000 is the frame of reference most people have for a disputed presidential race, and how we're defining that for this book is a presidential race decided basically by another branch of government. And in other cases, it was decided by Congress. In 2000, it basically was decided by the Supreme Court. The title, I'm glad you said you like the title.
I really do. Yeah, I'm serious, Fred, and you and I are friends. Right. You've been on the show many times, and I'm not just saying it because of that friendship, but if I did not know you and I just saw the title or read the title, Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and Electoral Chaos of Disputed Presidential Elections, I'd want to pick that book up.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear it. And some people's mind, it could almost describe this year, I think, from some of the things.
Absolutely. In fact, Fred, one of my questions to you is, hey, maybe you should send a bottle of champagne or wine to Donald Trump because of what's going on in the presidential elections. Boy, it's certainly bringing interest to presidential elections and campaigns. And this has been, I don't know, the dirtiest and nastiest of my generation. But, Fred, I love history. And if you love history, you gotta know about the history of our country and past elections. And you talk about the 1800 election and also the election of 1824. If people think this election is dirty, they should have been around for those elections.
Yeah, that's right. And the title, Tainted by Suspicion, that's actually derived from something President Grant said about the 1876 election, which is he said that he wanted Rutherford B. Hayes, the Republican, to win that year, but he said he did not want the result to be tainted by suspicion of election chicanery and so forth. And so, and the 1876 election, that was basically The Democrats stole that election, and the Republicans stole it back. Is one way to look at that. The Democrats did...
Well, tell us that story, Fred.
Okay, the Democrats did so much. This is detailed in Tanya Beck's Suspicion. In 1876, Democrats did so much in the South to suppress the black vote, and this was after the 15th Amendment went into effect. So much interference from the Ku Klux Klan and so forth. The Klan was actually referred to as the terrorist arm of the Democratic Party in some circles. And
I'll repeat that, Fred, because I want our audience to hear that.
Okay, and a lot of voter suppression was, and very violent voter suppression. Not what we're talking about when Debbie Wasserman Schultz talks about voter suppression if you have to show a driver's license. I mean, we're talking about horrible things that Democrats were doing in 1876 and during that time. And Samuel Tilden, the Democrat, New York governor at the time, he did win the popular vote. But there were some real questions in 3 southern states, Florida being one of them, interestingly enough, because obviously Florida was the defining state in 2000. And also Oregon was one of those states, 3 southern states and also Oregon. And eventually it went to a special electoral commission, and the commission determined that Rutherford B. Hayes would be president.
Very interesting. Fred, let's talk about... we only have about 2 minutes. You know what, Fred? Let's take our break now, and then when we come back, we'll talk about a couple of the other elections you detail in your book, Tainted by Suspicion. All right?
All right, great.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, Red State Talk Radio, AM, FM 24/7. We are everywhere. We are everywhere. We're speaking with White House correspondent Fred Lucas about his new book, Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and the Electoral Chaos of Disputed Presidential Elections. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos radio network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, we're David and Patty Barrickman of Wildflower Ridge Honey, beekeepers for 49 years. I want to tell you about a great survival and a multi-use product called Trail Rations. It is pure honey and a product of the USA. Trail Rations comes in a food-grade 12-ounce, very durable and reusable pouch, ready for immediate use or for long-term storage because honey is the only food that never spoils. Honey is instant energy and goes right straight to your bloodstream. Honey is one of the best all-natural survival foods, natural sweetener right straight from Mother Nature. Honey is also antiviral, fungal, and bacterial. It's your first aid in a pouch. Carry one in your backpack or your bug-out bag. Find us on Facebook, Wildflower Ridge Honey, or call 765-641-9972, 765-641-9972.
I think we should make public colleges and universities tuition-free.
Climate change is directly related to the growth of terrorism.
Remove the federal prohibition on marijuana.
Climate change poses immediate risks to our national security.
I did not email any classified material to anyone. There is no classified material. Certainly well aware of the classification requirements.
We have a lot to learn from democratic socialist governments that have existed in countries like Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Norway.
This campaign is about a political revolution to transform this country.
Now more than ever, we need our voice in Washington. Now more than ever, we need Sharon Angle in Washington. Go to runsharonangle.com and help us draft Sharon Angle to run for U.S. Senate.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcasts, check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Mornings at 9 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com. At 1 p.m., roarradio.net. At 9 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. Or you can hear our show any time of the day from your telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Fred Lucas. He's the White House correspondent for theblaze.com. And we're discussing Fred's new book, Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and Electoral Chaos of Disputed Presidential Elections. Fred, thanks for holding through that break.
Thanks.
Fred, in your about your book, it says here, when the rules changed, Donald Trump's campaign echoes Andrew Jackson's 1824 insurgency. Fred Lucas, please explain.
Well, that was the year that 1824. Andrew Jackson came in and really challenged the Washington establishment. He was the first presidential candidate to really win on charisma and personality. He did not actually win the presidency in 1824, which is why that book is why that election is part of this book. But he really tapped into anger. People had built up this anger at that time towards Washington, towards the establishment, and there was essentially one party existed in that day, and that was the Democratic Republican Party that traced back to Jefferson. And Jackson would use like foul language sometimes, just the same way Trump does, but astonishes people. He would say that the National Bank was a hydro-headed monster. He said that the War Department and all of Washington was the great whore of Babylon, one of his quotes. And he just really got people fired up. And he did win a plurality of the vote in 1824, the popular vote. He won a plurality, actually, of the Electoral College, but not a majority. That's what sent the election to the House again, House of Representatives, and that's where what became known as the corrupt bargain with Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House, who shifted the votes in the House to John Quincy Adams, and incidentally, Henry Clay was appointed as Secretary of State.
Insider deals, eh?
Right, and that's why it became known as the corrupt bargain. There was sort of a similar deal made in the it became known as sort of a Wormley House deal. An 1876 election, a group of Democrats met with a group of Republicans, and they agreed basically that Reconstruction in the South would end. All the federal troops were gone after enough Southern Democrats would come on board and vote with the Electoral Commission on Hayes.
Right. Hey, Fred, again, the book is Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and Electoral Chaos of disputed presidential elections. You talk about the election of 1800, 1824, 1876, the year 2000. Again, I haven't seen your book. It's just coming out today. But why didn't you include 1960 in there?
Oh, 1960 actually is. There's
good.
As well as 1888. Those two elections, those were close elections, and I refer to them as honorable mentions. Because they weren't necessarily disputed elections.
Right.
By that definition, I mean they were not decided by another branch of government. When an election is decided by members of Congress or the Supreme Court, it gives, I think, the public a bad taste in their mouth beyond what they would get just from a close election.
Yeah.
And they feel like the president was selected rather than elected, and that's something that though certainly 1888 that was the year that Grover Cleveland won the popular vote and lost the Electoral College. And in 1960, of course, we had all kinds of shenanigans, which are detailed and painted by suspicion, out of Chicago.
Yeah.
And I get a little bit more beyond that as well, to show that it's very likely that even putting the shenanigans aside out of Chicago, even if none of that happened, it's very likely Nixon actually won the popular vote because of this very convoluted system in Alabama, and that would take a really long time to explain that system. But I would hope people would check the book out and read more about that.
Hey, Fred, I want to bring Sharon Angle into this conversation. Now, Sharon, it seems that people say they hate negative campaigns. They hate these dirty negative campaigns. But as evidenced by this campaign, this election season, both on the Democrat and Republican side, but it seems like they can't get enough of the fighting. They can't get enough. It's almost like a reality TV show, Sharon Angle.
I think you're right, Rick. It is kind of like a reality TV show in that this is true negative campaigning. Many times people get confused about a campaign when you're doing the compare and contrast between the two candidates on issues. That's just what it is, where, you're exposing the record, you're saying, look at the record, vote for the record that most closely resembles the way that you think the government should be run, not this name-calling and picking at other people's families and things like that. But I had a question for George. And
it's actually Fred, but he'll answer to George, too.
I'm sorry, Fred. George Lucas is star and got more money, huh? Sorry.
Yeah.
I get you guys confused. Fred, I have a question for you about this history lesson that you're giving us. Is that all it is just history, or can we bring that forward a bit and really apply it to what's going on in this election scene right now today? And by that I mean, we saw Andrew Jackson. I like that comparison that you've made to him as being that fiery rhetoric person, the straight talker like Donald Trump. And he was the father of the Democrat Party, really. He's the one that got it started. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about where you think this is headed. Andrew Jackson, did he go down as one of the great presidents of our country? Did he start his own party because of all this animosity during this election? Talk to us a little bit about what we might expect from Donald Trump if history is repeating itself, or do you think, it's not? That's just the lesson we learned.
I think it could be, and one major part of this book, and I think the very meaty part that the readers will like, is we look at each of these elections and evaluate what if it went the other way, and specifically for 1824, which you brought up. If Andrew Jackson had been elected 4 years early, it's very likely the Democratic Party would not have existed, or something akin to it probably would have morphed together. But it was after the 1824 election that Andrew Jackson was, and along with Martin Van Buren, who was a very political operative well before he ran for office, put together this machine, which became the Democratic Party, the Jacksonian Democrats, and they launched the 1828 campaign, which was very successful. So that's one aspect of Jackson. Also about Jackson, and this is something I talked with various historians about. It's also very likely that one of the big things he became known for, which is closing the National Bank, he might not have been able to do that had he defeated John Quincy Adams 4 years earlier, because if he had served out the eight years in office, it's very likely that the legislation to renew the bank would not have come up in time for him to get rid of that. So his legacy would have changed quite a bit, and it's likely he would not have been such a notable figure had he won earlier.
Fred, you know,
they're going to remove his picture from the I believe it's the $20 bill here. And why do you think they picked on Jackson? I thought that was an interesting bill.
Well, yeah, and that's something I actually wrote about for the Stairway Press blog. It is interesting because Jackson, though, I mean, you could almost look at it as a Republican beat a Democrat in the current election. The Republican, Andrew Jackson was the founder of the Democratic Party. If I could hit that one question, though, that you touched on, the book is Tainted by Suspicion. It is very much geared towards not just being history, but rather applying this to today's elections. We do get into the Trump-Jackson comparison, but it also gets into how religious views play a big role in the 1800 election. People went after Thomas Jefferson in that election. It also gets into, obviously, race and voter aspects in the 1876 election. And we sort of applies every election that's profiled in this book to how it would, to what we're seeing in today's politics. And also looks into the what if. Beyond Jackson also looks into what if.
Hey, Fred, we're running short on time, and I wanted to give you an opportunity, again, to talk about your book and where people can get it and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, yeah, the book is on Amazon.com right now. It's an ebook, early release. It's going to be in bookstores in June.
Well, Fred, when I get my copy, I cannot wait to read it. We'll have you back on again. But, you know, Fred, I got to say, as we're talking about it, you know, I love history. I love documentaries. I could certainly see where your book would be the basis for a documentary on these elections that you talk about in your book, Tainted by Suspicion, The Secret Deals and Electoral Chaos of Disputed Presidential Elections. Fred, you need to find a producer to make this into a documentary.
I can work on that with your suggestions.
Yeah, there you go, buddy. Fred Lucas, thank you so much for joining us on Conservative Commandos. Best of luck with the book. You also have a Facebook page, Tainted by Suspicion. Where else can people find more information?
The book itself does have a website, taintedbysuspicion.com, and you can read a preview of the book in there and also see some of the endorsements as well.
Fred Lucas, the official, unofficial White House correspondent for the Conservative Commandos radio show. Thank you so much. Take care. God bless. And again, good luck on that book.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, Sharon, we got to run. We went a little long, but I wanted to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank our other guest, Guy Short, Randy Burnett, our most recent guest, Fred Lucas. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
guys, we're ready for our Four Seasons sunroom, and Daddy's gonna get a rec room with refreshments.
Oh no, we'll be sleeping under the stars.
Mom, what about the one with, the fun?
Nice try, little bro. It's a gym. My gym.
Hey, Grandma's getting her Four Seasons garden room. Weather tight and still like being outdoors. Maybe